This is Wendy Day from RapCoalition. I'm glad you're tuned in to GroundUpRadio.com. I see you're getting built from the ground up.
Ground Up Radio. Get built from the ground up.
Let's go!
QueFourFive, Ground Up Radio. Get
Ground Up Radio.
VUVM Radio with my man Flawless, BobbyFlawless on the line. And we got a very special guest on the line tonight. You all should know who this lady is. If you don't, if you're a hip-hop enthusiast like myself and Flawless, you gotta know this woman.
Legendary.
The legendary. If you know the names David Dunn, Cash Money Records, Twister, Razzcast, shoot, even the late great Tupac Shakur, then you should know. Master P. You should know when we said the name Wendy Day, you should know that she is a true power player in the background of these individuals that we just named career. Without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Wendy Day, representing the RapCoalition.
Hi guys, how are you?
Doing well, man.
Great.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
So many questions don't even know where to start. But
I know, right?
what made you? I got a question though. What made you just even get into hip hop, though, Miss Day?
Oh, insanity. So, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. It's one of those things, right? I started listening to hip hop in 1980, and I'm kind of giving away my age here. But I started listening to hip hop when it first left New York. I lived in Philadelphia at the time. I'm born and raised in Philly, and because Philly is only an hour and a half from New York, we got it pretty early. And I was in college, and I went to a concert, and I saw Grandmaster Flash perform at the University of Pennsylvania. I wasn't going to school there. That was just like a neighboring college. But I was so impressed with their energy and their stage presence and, just the whole story of, who they are. And in listening to the raps, I'm like, wow, what's this? This is awesome. And as I got more into it, I realized that I really loved it, and it became a really big part of my life.
Wow. So from being a fan of hip-hop for so long, when did you actually begin to get into the industry, the music industry? What was it that got you into that position?
In 1992, I had moved back to New York City from Montreal. I was in Montreal helping the father of one of my friends run a liquor company. And he had invested in the company, but he was an engineer by trade, so he kind of let me do everything. And I always explain it by saying it was like training wheels, because I didn't have to put up money. He put up all the money, so there was no risk for me, but it showed me that I could take something from nothing and make something. So it gave me the balls, if you will, to go out on my own when I came home. And when I came back to New York, I was very fortunate. I had made a lot of money with the liquor company, and I wanted to do something to help people, and I wanted to do something with rap music, and I couldn't quite figure it out, I've got a master's degree in African American Studies, and I knew that I wanted to help people of color start businesses, because I believe that's the way to resolve the struggle, is if you can make your own money and you can have your own control over your own future, then you can get up out of any situation that you're in. So I knew that I wanted to do that, I wanted to work in music, but I wasn't quite sure like how the two would meet, And I took a class in New York at the New School, and it was taught by Bert Padell, who's like an accountant to the stars. And Bert, it was a pop music class, and Bert was talking about how rappers were kind of getting jerked, not kind of, but they were getting jerked by their record labels and by these production companies that were like middlemen between the artist and the record label. And once I learned that, it's like I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew what my calling was. And I started a not-for-profit organization called RapCoalition to help get artists out of bad deals.
Wow.
So this is, when you started RapCoalition, what year is this?
1992.
92, okay. And on starting RapCoalition and moving forward with helping artists, who was the first artist that you took on to help in a predicament of a bad deal?
Dizazz Tempo. They were signed to Def Jam. And, you know, it's funny because Dizazz, I still see Dizazz on Facebook all the time. Dizazz went on to become a designer for Fat Farm, for Aniche, for like some of the really big urban brands that were kicking like in the 90s and the early 2000s. But he was in a rap group with his partner, and they were called Dizazz Tempo, and they were signed to Def Jam, and Russell was just kind of holding them. They weren't, you know, they never came out, and they were very frustrated. And they were the very first artists that I ever pulled out of a record deal.
Okay. Wow. So you're doing that.
And by the way, they were like the first of hundreds. And most of them, sadly, you wouldn't know necessarily like who they are, because they did, like, their careers didn't go the way they were supposed to. Hence me coming in and breaking the contracts. But then there's some that you would know, like Common. I helped pull Common off of Relativity, Killer Priest off of Geffen. Just a lot of different artists that were in bad situations that needed to move on.
Well, those rappers back then, they were just signing bad contracts, just happy to get on, so they just sign anything.
I think that's what it is. You know, first of all, the rap community is a community where lawyers aren't people that you naturally do business with, you know? Like, in the rap community back then, lawyers were like people you went to see if you caught a case. They weren't necessarily something that you were comfortable with. You know, most rappers don't have an uncle that's a lawyer, you know, so they're sort of a system that's in place outside of what their experience is. And the labels know this, and the labels very much take advantage or took advantage of this.
Right.
And a lot of what I did with RapCoalition, and everything we did at RapCoalition was for free. It was a not-for-profit. And then the way that I funded the company was to do the deals. So the deals that I've done, that I've gotten paid for, I've actually put the money back into the not-for-profit so that we could continue educating artists. But a lot of the early work that I did was introducing rappers to lawyers, just so that when they went to negotiate their deals, they wouldn't get taken advantage of.
Wow.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
Wow.
So moving forward, you mentioned a couple of names that we are familiar with, like Common, which is one of my favorite MCs, Flawless as well, I'm sure. But who was the first artist you took on that was like known to like the national spotlight? So,
wow. I don't know if I can answer that, because for what I did, I didn't really pay attention to like who was famous and who wasn't.
Right.
Maybe at the time, Quest the Mad Lad, he was signed to Deaf American.
I remember him too.
Yeah, he might have been the first. Wow, I hate to commit to that, because I didn't really pay attention to who was famous and who wasn't. It was more like whoever needed help got help, you know?
Right. Okay. Okay. So when was it that you realized that, you know, you're helping artists, you're getting them out of these deals and getting them in better situations? When is it that you realize I got a reputation now? You know, when you had people that were, you know, I'm pretty sure people, you know, you didn't have to go out and campaign to say, hey, I can get your deal, you know, get you out your deal.
Never. Yeah, never. It kind of happened organically. After I pulled, there was a group called Chameleons, and they were signed to 4th and Broadway. And one of the guys in the Chameleons, his name was Popan, his cousin, or maybe it was his manager's cousin, anyway, somebody in their organization, one of their cousins was running a label out in Richmond, California for a guy named Master P. And because Popan trusted me so much from what they went through in pulling them out of their crappy deal, he referred me to this guy, and they were in the midst of negotiating a contract with Priority Records, and they were a little bit concerned because the guy that was doing the negotiating was signed to Priority Records, and they weren't sure if it was a good deal or if the guy was kind of serving them up in order to benefit his own career at Priority.
Right.
So basically I stepped in and I helped them negotiate that deal. It turned out that the guy negotiating the deal was doing a good deal. He was being fair. But of course they didn't know that at the time. And for me it was a great first deal to be a part of because he got to retain his masters, and it was an 80-20 split. So it was a really wonderful situation to be part of. The frustrating side of it for me was that I didn't get to do the direct negotiations. It was almost like sitting in the back seat. You know how when you sit in the back seat and you're giving somebody directions, it's always harder than when you're driving and you can just turn left or turn right. And I learned from that experience, as great as that deal was and as proud as I am to have been part of it, I really learned that too many cooks in the kitchen makes it really hard to get shit done. So I decided from that point forward that I would do deals for artists that had leverage, like Master P. You know, he had leverage when we did that deal. But I would make sure that it was just like me and an attorney, whether it was my attorney or whether it was the artist's attorney, negotiating the deal, because then we could have more control over the value of the deal and the areas. Most lawyers and outside people, when they do a deal, they want to get as much money up front, but that's not always what's in the best interest for the artist. You know, sometimes you want to get extra perks in the deal, like in David Banner's deal. If Universal hadn't sold at least 300,000 units of his first album, he would have been able to take his masters and leave. And that has so much more value than money, because it means if they screwed up his career, he could go elsewhere.
Right.
You know, so I wanted to be in control of the deal so that I could do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Because Master P, his deal, he did have an 80-20 split, though. He's like one of the first.
Yes. If not, I think it was the first, actually.
Okay.
Certainly the first in rap.
Okay.
And then from there, I went on to do Twista's deal, which was a 50-50 split at Atlantic. After Twista's deal, I think the Eminem deal came next. And then Cash Money.
Cash Money deal. That's one of the biggest deals in hip-hop to date.
Yeah, that's what they...
Yeah.
It's funny, I kind of made history on that one.
It was was it $30 million?
Yes, that was actually the value of the deal, but the guys were so successful that it actually became more than a $30 million deal. But when we negotiated it, it was, yes, a $30 million deal.
Because Cash Money was independent in the beginning, and
oh gosh,
they was already rolling, wasn't they?
Yes, they put out 31 records over a 6-year period.
31 albums?
Yeah, 31 albums.